So, the Benelli Imperiale 400 versus Royal Enfield Classic 350. Which is better among the two is what this video is all about. Now, Royal Enfield bikes are unique in that they stick to what they believe in. They don't change themselves to follow what others do, nor do they overload their bikes with over-the-top electronics. They continue to keep the true essence of motorcycling alive by offering a pure and raw riding experience which the old school, mature and seasoned bikers still prefer. So does the new Benelli Imperiale 400 have what it takes to really dethrone the king who has been kind of running a monopoly in its segment? So let's not waste any more time. Let's start this comparo by splitting the review into different sections. First, let's start with the specs comparo. Dimensions wise, the overall height of the Imperiale is up by 30 mm, width is up by 30 mm as well, and the overall length is up by 10 mm. As a result of the increased length, the Imperiale gets a longer wheelbase of 1440 mm compared to 1390 mm of Royal Enfield Classic 350. The longer wheelbase results in better high-speed stability, which is kind of evident once we are doing speeds of over 130 km per hour on the Imperiale 400. The bike feels a lot more stable and sure-footed. However, the ideal cruising speed on the Imperiale would be around 100 to 110 km per hour. So here we have the Imperiale taking the lead in this comparo. Now talking about the ground clearance, the Imperiale scores here as well by offering a ground clearance of 165 mm compared to 135 mm of the Classic 350. The higher ground clearance means hassle-free riding experience through the city, where we have to tackle what I choose to call vehicle breakers rather than speed breakers, and this also serves as an advantage while venturing onto the more challenging terrains. Next comes the seat height. The Imperiale again does offer lower seat height despite the high ground clearance, which shows that Benelli tried to make this bike a winner on all fronts. The Classic 350 comes with a seat height of 800 mm, so shorter riders and average height riders would feel more comfortable riding the Imperiale, and also because of the slightly forward set rider foot pegs, people up to 6 feet tall should feel comfortable riding the Imperiale. Then we have the tank capacity. Now this is where the Imperiale really falls short. A 12-liter tank is way too less in my opinion, because 90% of the riders would like to take this bike out for touring because that's how comfortable the bike is, and a 12-liter tank doesn't offer good tank range. The Classic 350 just edges past the Imperiale here by offering a 13.5-liter tank, which is also not sufficient in my opinion. We should get at least a 15-liter tank or an 18-liter tank such that the bikes could offer much better tank range. Now coming to the weight advantage, both the bikes feel heavy and sturdy, but the Imperiale weighs 205 kgs whereas the Classic 350 weighs 194 kgs. So this clearly gives the Royal Enfield the weight advantage, but the Imperiale compensates for this by offering more power and more torque. The Imperiale offers 1 PS of more power and 1 Nm of more torque compared to the Classic 350. Now let's talk about the design. Royal Enfield come with an ageless and timeless design that never grows old. Royal Enfield bikes are immortal because even your grandson would love to ride it a few decades down the line and he would still look cool riding it. So in terms of design, Royal Enfield is like Madhubala ji or Marilyn Monroe, whose beauty never fades. The Imperiale does look well put together, kind of reminds me of the Triumph Speedmaster. Build quality is great for both the machines, and it doesn't appear that either of them have compromised in any area while building these machines. Now talking about the Speedo console, the Imperiale is a clear winner here because of the twin pod layout and also including fuel gauge and a gear position indicator, which the Royal Enfield classic motorcycles continue to lack. Now talking about safety features, the Imperiale gets dual channel ABS as standard, which cannot be turned off. Royal Enfield on the other hand offers dual channel as well as single channel ABS across different variants of Classic 350. The newly launched 350S offers single channel ABS, whereas the Signals Edition, Gunmetal Grey and other models offer dual channel ABS. And the braking is equally good on both the bikes, but I felt the Imperiale's brakes to be slightly more effective because of the larger 300 mm front disc, and you can see the difference in the braking test timing right here. You can see that the Imperiale 400 comes to a standstill in slightly lesser time when we compare it with the Royal Enfield Classic 350, which takes slightly longer to come to a standstill. Now, talking about the engine, powering the Imperiale is a single-cylinder air-cooled, fuel-injected, 4-valve 374cc engine that puts out 21 PS of max power and 29 Newton meters of max torque. We get a 5-speed gearbox. The Classic 350 on the other hand comes powered by a single-cylinder 346cc air-cooled carbureted engine that puts out 19.8 PS of max power and 28 Newton meters of max torque, and we get a 5-speed gearbox. Talking about the brakes, the Imperiale gets a 300mm disc up front when compared to the 280mm disc for the Classic 350. And at the back, both the bikes get a 240mm disc, and as I mentioned before, dual channel ABS is available for both the bikes. As mentioned before, the braking is just a wee bit better on the Imperiale because of the larger 300mm front disc. Now, talking about the suspension, we get 41mm telescopic forks up front for the Imperiale, whereas the Classic 350 gets 35mm telescopic forks up front. So the front end feel is slightly better on the Imperiale 400. At the back, both the bikes get twin gas-charged shock absorbers which offer a comfortable ride. The rear shocks on the Imperiale were slightly on the stiffer side, maybe to offer better high-speed stability, but again the Imperiale inches past the Classic 350 because of the 41mm front forks. Talking about the tires, both the bikes get a 19-inch front wheel and an 18-inch rear wheel. This shows how evenly matched both the bikes are. However, in terms of tire width, the Classic 350 gets a 90x90 tire up front compared to a 100x90 tire of the Imperiale, and at the back, the Imperiale clearly scores the win by offering a wider 130x80 rear tire compared to the 110x90 rear tire of the Classic 350. So the Imperiale offers slightly better road grip while cornering and also gives you more confidence. Now, talking about the ride feel, let's start with vibrations because that is what everyone's worried about. On the Imperiale, you do feel the vibrations in the lower RPM, but once past 60 or 70 km per hour, the vibrations completely vanish and we have a smooth mid-range right up to 130 or even 140 km per hour. Royal Enfield, on the other hand, you do feel the vibrations only when you are trying to rev it harder, like trying higher revs in lower gears. That's when the vibrations are most annoying and most apparent on the Classic 350. But if you shift up early with relaxed acceleration and go a little easy on the throttle, you don't really feel the vibrations all that much. So riding style really matters a lot when it comes to enjoying a Royal Enfield. In terms of power and torque, the Imperiale does feel torquey, but again that surge is more enjoyable when you ring the throttle wide open post 60 km per hour. Prior to that, you are just longing to hit an empty stretch because of the vibrations. Classic 350 is good when it comes to cruising at 90 to 95 km per hour, but the Imperiale can cruise at 100 to 110 km per hour. So it all boils down to the state of tune of the engine, and the Imperiale gets higher engine capacity, puts out 1 PS of more power and 1 Newton meter of more torque. But when you ride both the bikes back to back, the Imperiale makes you feel that the power and torque difference is greater than what is actually apparent on paper. False neutrals is another annoying thing, so I did hit false neutrals on the Imperiale, which I'm sure Benelli will fix pretty easily with future updates. The Classic 350 now is in its prime form, so the latest variant, the Classic 350S or the Signals, both were pretty neat in terms of riding experience with no false neutrals being encountered. Seating posture is comfortable on both the bikes, but I feel the Imperiale offers slightly better sorted riding posture because of the wider handlebar and slightly forward set rider foot pegs. Now, talking about the top speed, now please note that neither of these machines are about achieving the top speed because these are not sport bikes, but the Imperiale kind of is more enjoyable when it comes to ringing the throttle wide open each time you hit an empty stretch. The Classic 350 feels more comfortable holding its own and riding with a relaxed state of mind. The clutch feel is slightly heavy for both. A lighter clutch pull would reduce the fatigue while riding through city traffic. The throttle sensitivity and the throttle modulation is again more interesting and gives you that Thruxton kind of a feel on the Imperiale, and the acceleration is nice and clean and linear thanks to fuel injection. The Classic 350 is a more relaxed thumper among the two, and the acceleration when you ring the throttle wide open is not as clean as the Imperiale because the Classic gets a carburetor instead of fuel injection. In terms of mileage, my friends who have owned the Classic 350 over the years claim close to 40 kmpl in city conditions. There is no official claim for the Imperiale as such, but I think we can expect anything close to 35 to 38 kmpl from the Imperiale 400 in real world conditions. Now, coming to the price, this is where the Classic 350 really becomes a force to reckon with. They have different variants starting from as low as 1.46 lakhs ex-showroom as per Hyderabad prices and goes up to 1.64 lakhs for the Signals edition with dual channel ABS. The Imperiale 400 has been launched at 1.69 lakhs ex-showroom, which is outstanding considering the kind of features it has on offer. So now the verdict. Both the bikes are good in their own separate ways. They are similar in a lot of ways too, because Benelli is really targeting Royal Enfield's market share here. But despite the specs and the numbers being in favor of the Imperiale, I still feel Royal Enfield has its own special charm and legacy that no one can deny. Imperiale is an outstanding attempt by Benelli to shake the market up and almost dethrone the king, but Royal Enfield is a legend like Sachin Tendulkar, whose class and legacy can never be matched. Imperiale is like Sehwag, who is more exciting, more explosive and more interesting, but Sehwag can never become Tendulkar. But competition is always good, and the Imperiale is yet another option for all those waiting for a worthy competitor to take on the Royal Enfield. So should you buy the Imperiale? Yes, because it is good in every which way possible, but if you want to play it safe, you can still go with the Royal Enfield Classic 350 because the Classic is an immortal that will never grow old. Well, I guess this wraps up my comparison video. I just hope you found this video useful. Until next time, this is Dino saying ciao, take care, God bless and ride safe.